Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. Today, I'm feeling especially bodacious and totally tubular because finally I get to talk about the somewhat brand new NECA Fred Wolf Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mondo Gecko with special guest appearance by Kerma, the Turtleoid. Man, what an awesome 2-pack disguised as a deluxe figure. I mean, that's what this kind of is. You're getting two characters in one, and it's $10 cheaper. So that's a pretty cool 2-pack in my opinion. I was always a huge fan of Mondo Gecko back in the day for 3 reasons. One, his toy was totally awesome. It came out in 1990, which was probably my favorite wave of the Ninja Turtles. And number 2, his first appearance in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 18 is quite possibly one of my favorite Ninja Turtle comics of all time. I mean, just look at that cover by Ken Michironi. That's amazing and beautiful. Yeah. And 3, Mondo was always kind of like the ace up my sleeve. There'd be times when I was a kid and my buddy would be like, "Hey, you want to go play Turtles?" And before I could even say yes, he'd be like, "I'm Michelangelo." So, instead of getting, totally bummed out because I wanted to be the party dude, I'd simply say, "I'm Mondo Gecko." Then I'd just act like Michelangelo, you know? He was the way that both of us could be party dudes. And I'm really glad that we're getting a brand new Mondo Gecko based on how he appeared in the show. Sure, I mean, he's only a tiny bit different than the actual toy, but at least this guy will look awesome and fit in with the rest of the Fred Wolf toys. So let's get moving. This box looks fantastic, and it continues NECA's nod to the great VHS tapes we all had back in the day. The illustration was done by Dan Elson, who always does a great job. The original VHS tapes had beautifully painted box art, and I think Dan does an amazing job of recreating that look. I'm pretty sure that, this was created digitally. I can't say that 100%, but come on, it's definitely made digitally. But I think that Dan is, he gets as close to the real deal as you can get. The title of this deluxe set is Shred Mondo, Shred. The art looks nice and energetic. Mondo looks very on model. Mondo's eyes in the cartoon always looked like a mix to me. Like he's either super stoned or pure evil. On the side here, you can see that this is volume 5. And, hopefully that's in a very long line of deluxe action figures. All the covers in this line look great. And hopefully the pizza monsters aren't too far behind. Mondo's box is pretty much almost the exact same size as the Deluxe Foot Soldier box. It's just a tad bit shorter, maybe a little deeper, but it's pretty close. Here on the back, you have a pretty nice shot of Mondo and Kerma standing next to each other. Mondo and Kerma never actually met in the show, but, I like seeing the two of them together. It would have been cool if Mondo turned up in one of those Turtleoid episodes, but like most of the characters who originated in the toy line, he was, completely underused in the show. They would rather have, some kind of generic scientist or something like that than throw in those awesome mutants we were all playing with. I think this picture kind of looks like the cover to the Planet of the Turtleoids VHS tape. All the action shots over here look pretty awesome, and they really do a good job of capturing Mondo's personality. He in the cartoon, he's sort of a mix between being a good guy and a bad guy. He just has a face that looks like he could, be kind of devious or something. The description at the top of this box reads, "Plucked from the sewers by the malevolent Mr. X, Mondo Gecko only knew a life of crime. That was until the gnarly skateboarder met his long-lost sewer mate, Michelangelo. Mondo and Mikey soon realized they were born to be best buds and teamed up to thwart Mr. X's villainous venture." Now, for Kerma, it says, "Hailing from the distant planet of the Turtleoids, Kerma was no typical terrapin. As the sanctity of his beloved utopian city of Shell-Rala was terrorized by the treacherous Herman the Horrible, Kerma searched the galaxy for a savior. Surmising an Earthling could protect his peace-loving people, Kerma brought Groundchuck, Dirtbag, and the Turtles back to his homeworld to defeat the devious double-headed dragon." Unfortunately, there's no names for the accessories, which is kind of a bummer. But don't worry, I'll explain what everything is inside of this box. When you're done looking at the back, you can finally open this guy up and check it out, see what's inside here. On the side, you got this pretty awesome shot of Mondo Gecko, and look how gigantic this skateboard is. Like, that's huge. You know, that's probably taller than him. He's actually a little shorter than I was expecting him to be, but, you know, we'll check and see how his scale looks in the cartoon with the Ninja Turtles. Like I said, that's an awesome shot. Over here, these two guys look pretty awesome. There's lots of... all the accessories in here pretty much pertain to Mondo Gecko. They could have thrown in some accessories for Kerma, but I'll talk about them later when I get to accessories. You know, sometimes I wonder, like, if I only wanted to skateboard as a kid because the Ninja Turtles were skateboarding. I mean, I did also try to join karate, and I ate pizza all the time and try to act like a party dude, so... My gosh. They completely molded my entire life. All right, so... you know, like I said, this all looks really good. Looks awesome. Try to get that glare out of there so you can see. So I'm going to open this guy up, get him moving a little bit. Hopefully I won't have to warm anything up. Hopefully he's not too stiff, and hopefully none of his joints are too loose. Hopefully he's just perfect, like a perfect bowl of porridge. And I will talk to you in a second. I also want to mention that when you remove Mondo and Kerma from the box, behind them there's this cool shot of the NECA Toon diorama. And what's really cool is up here, they have Mr. X and Gecko spray painted on the wall. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but that comes from the very first Mondo Gecko episode, Michelangelo meets Mondo Gecko. So that's pretty cool. And if you're wondering, you know, who Mr. X is, I'll talk about him a little later. But what's kind of neat is they also included a silhouette here of Mr. X in this window. And over on this side, you have, of course, an Ace Duck poster, which is pretty awesome. And then up here you have a wanted poster for A.J. Howard. And who's A.J. Howard? Well, I'll talk about that in a little bit too. So here's Mondo and Kerma, free from their package. These guys look great. And you know, I think all their accessories are really awesome too. Like that skateboard is just awesome looking. I'm glad that they have like a little peg here, you know, so you can stick his foot on there and he won't fall off. You know, another thing I really like is just this explosive device. You know, obviously it looks like the device in the episode that it belongs to, but it just makes a very cool generic explosive device. Like you could use it for anything. Now, I did switch Mondo's hands. He originally comes with these, like, you know, his hands spread out like this, like he's skateboarding or whatever. So I put the gripping hands in his hands. But I do want to mention this, is that a huge problem with these hands and lots of NECA's parts is that sometimes they make the joints the wrong color. So like the color of this joint, this peg here, and this part that, you know, spins around this little circle here, it's actually like Mondo Gecko's skin color, like that green. So as soon as you start to move this thing, the paint wears off, and that, you know, just kind of stinks. You know, you don't want that. So like with these kind of hands where they're like kind of straight out like this, I'll probably leave them straight like this because, you know, it'll make it look like he's, you know, hang 10 or whatever. But for these hands, like the gripping hands, you're going to end up probably trying to turn them a little bit. And as soon as I start to turn that red paint on the joint just starts to pull off. And that's a bummer. Like a lot of paint came off of these joints. So what I'm going to do is just talk about putting the tail onto Mondo Gecko. You know, when you get him in the box, he does not have the tail on his body. So let's try to do that real quick here. Now, this may be dangerous because I did not warm this up at all. But if you look at that hole, that is a very small hole. And that is a very big ball. So, you know, maybe I can get that in there. I think it's in there. I think that's good. I think it's in as far as it can go. I don't know. You never can tell. Sometimes this can be a dangerous operation, but I think it's fine. I think it's in as far as it's supposed to go. So that was cool. That wasn't too bad. Also, I may have been a little generous when I said that this is just kind of like a 2-pack, you know, a cheaper 2-pack, because Kerma here, he is very limited. You know, he has a very small amount of articulation. He works well, but yeah, it's not like getting a regular 2-pack. I mean, look at all this articulation on Mondo here, and like Kermit pretty much has like I don't know, like 8 points or something like that. I'll figure out more once I get to articulation. But he looks cool. He does what he's supposed to do, but, he's just a little simple. Before I begin to talk about Mondo in excessive detail, first, let's talk about Mondo in the cartoon. Mondo Gecko first appeared in the Season 5 episode, Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko. As the episode begins, Mikey awakens from a terrible nightmare. He causes such a commotion that the other turtles and Splinter wake up and come to his side to find out what's wrong. Mikey explains to them that he's been having this reoccurring nightmare, but he can't recall what it's about. So Splinter suggests using hypnosis to uncover the troubling dreams. This medallion was actually included in the Splinter and Baxter 2-pack, so, that's pretty awesome. In his hypnotic state, Mikey begins to remember. He remembers when the turtles were still tiny turtles, living in a fishbowl, and that stupid clumsy kid dropped them into the sewers. They nearly became the baby flattened pancake turtles, but when they hit the bottom, they landed in a puddle of green ooze. So it sort of saved them, even though it mutated them, right? Obviously, the writer of this episode did not see the first episode or read the show Bible or anything like that, because it's already been well established here that, the turtles were living in the sewers with Hamato Yoshi for a little bit before they encountered the ooze. It wasn't until Yoshi left them home alone so that he could probably go find some sewer chicks or something like that, that the Shredder poured some ooze into their lair and the turtles were exposed. It also used to be pink in the first episode, but, that's not on the writer. That's like a production thing. So here's where the plot gets interesting. For the first time in 5 years, and after about 100 episodes, Mikey reveals that there was another creature walking on the ooze with them that day. It was a baby lizard. Mikey was hoping that this fellow reptile would be his new best bud, but before Mikey could ask him, if he wanted to go get a slice of pizza, a humongous dude with a bad attitude picked him up and took him away. The turtles and Splinter go back to bed, but Mikey decides to go out and investigate the area in the sewer where the turtles flopped in or fell in, While looking around, Mikey overhears a burglar alarm up on the surface. So he heads up, and that's when he encounters two thugs and a cloaked figure. Who is this hooded cloaked figure? Well, you guessed it, it's Mondo Gecko. And, of course, in true Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fashion, this mutant is a bad dude who eventually turns into a good dude. He had to be bad at first. It's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle law or something like that. As the plot progresses, we learn that Mondo Gecko was indeed the lizard who walked on the mutagen with the four turtles. He's evil because he was picked up by the evil madman with a Boris Karloff voice, Mr. X. Seriously, why would Mr. X just pick up the lizard and leave the four turtles? Turtles are friggin' awesome. So, Mr. X took Mondo home to his secret lair or base on Devil Mountain. He raised him, and he taught him how to break the law. Dad, can I go outside and play with the other kids? Not until you get done tagging your room. So Mr. X's evil plans go much further than, spray painting walls. He also has Mondo Gecko, break into banks like in the beginning. And he also has Mondo and his two other henchmen steal an exploding device so that he can hold the city for ransom. Mikey spends most of this episode trying to learn more about Mondo Gecko, but he's, pretty incompetent. Like, he's kicked down the street in a trash can, just like Bart Simpson. He's almost run over by Mondo's skateboard. Mondo Gecko ties Mikey up with his own grappling hook. I mean, how embarrassing. He's almost fed to the sharks. He gets sent down a mountain on a runaway truck. And he's also almost blasted. Like, he's not a very good Ninja Turtle in this episode. So, and Mondo, he goes back and forth a lot, too, in this one. Sometimes he wants to kill Mikey, and other times he wants to save him. He's conflicted because, he thinks he knows Mikey, but he doesn't know how he knows Mikey. He's just really confused. The two of them don't realize the truth about everything until Mikey hypnotizes Mondo, so Mondo can remember his forgotten past. And in the end, Mondo, of course, realizes, he's a good guy. The turtles arrive at Mr. X's secret lair and stop him from holding the city for ransom because, everyone knows Mikey couldn't do it alone, that's for sure. Donatello dismantles the bomb. Mondo and Mikey realize that the two of them were meant to be best buds, and Mondo moves in to a sewer next door. Boy, going from a giant top-secret base on top of Devil Mountain to a dark, dank sewer probably would have deterred me from turning over a new leaf. The episode is actually pretty good. It plays out more like a mystery than my, summary gives it credit. Mondo's pretty cool, but his voice is very different from the voice I have in my head when I think of Mondo Gecko. Like, to me, he sounds like he should sound like Ted Theodore Logan, but in this cartoon, he's very, angsty. He's just a very angsty kind of, I don't even know if you would say teenager. He sounds more like a 20-some-year-old kind of guy. It probably fits the character a little more because, in this episode, he is like a villain and he becomes a good guy. So maybe that angsty voice is a little better. For me, this episode is cool, but the continuity is all out of whack and stuff like that. And this origin is very different from the origin in the toy line and in the Archie comics. In both the toy line and the Archie comics, he actually starts off as a rocker teenager kind of guy, and he gets mutated into the gecko, as opposed to being a gecko who mutates into a man gecko. So you'd think that since Mondo Gecko moved in right next door, he'd show up a bunch more, right? Nope. He only appears in one more episode. That's the Season 7 episode, Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter. In this episode, the eccentric millionaire, A.J. Howard, hires Dirk Savage, professional mutant hunter, to capture all the mutants in the city. A.J. is very anti-mutant, and, he gives all of his supporters these anti-mutant bracelets. And once the mutants are captured, he fits them all with these compliance cuffs. Things get a little crazy later on when it's revealed that Howard is actually a mutant slug in disguise. Howard plans to take over the world, and he uses the bracelets and the cuffs to not only control his captives, but also his supporters. So where does Mondo Gecko fit in here? Well, as the story progresses, Dirk Savage captures more and more mutants, including some we've seen before in the cartoon, and some who are making their cartoon debut. He even manages to capture Leo and Mikey. That's when Don gets a great idea. Hey Raph, let's get one of our friends to purposely get captured while wearing a tracking device. Let's call Mondo Gecko. He's a sucker, right? I don't know, Donnie. You don't think he'll mind being chased by a giant hulking man with giant guns and a giant monster van used for apprehending mutants? Oh, I don't know, Raph. I don't know about that. Donatello, don't you think that he'll mind being shot at and roped up during a high-speed chase, which would probably cause internal bleeding before he's dragged away on the asphalt? Well, Raph, it's either him or you. I guess when you put it like that, Donatello, you make a good point. Man, with friends like these, who needs enemies? As if getting roughed up by Dirk Savage wasn't bad enough, Mondo was fitted with the compliance cuffs, and he's forced to fight the turtles. If I was Mondo, next time the turtles ask me to do something, I'd say thanks, but no thanks. This is actually a pretty decent episode. I like the overabundance of mutants in this episode. People like Peter Laird would always talk about how there was too many mutants in the cartoon and stuff like that. But really the cartoon is just filled with generic scientists, and you hardly ever get the mutant characters from the toy lines. So it's kind of cool to see them all thrown in this one episode. There's even mutants in this episode that we never see ever again. Some of them aren't the coolest, but some of them are kind of neat. And, if I would have saw this as a kid, I probably would have tried to draw some of them. If you look at the brand new Mondo Gecko action figure, I think he just looks awesome. I think he looks very similar to how he looks in the show. Although you can't really say that he looks exact, because lots of times in that old show, they don't always do the best job of staying on model. But I think that this is a good representation of how he looks a lot of times in those two episodes. And Michelangelo meets Mondo Gecko, they really draw him very cartoony and expressive. And his proportions just change a lot. Look how wide his tail is in this shot. Or, how huge his head is here. One of the goofiest shots in this episode is this one where they accidentally put the hat layer underneath the head layer. You can still find some pretty good shots though that match the look of this action figure. Like this action figure kind of gives him more of like a I don't know. I would say that this is kind of more like a T-Rex beak or something like that than like a gecko lizard kind of look. You know, from like the profile, his snout or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's a specific name for lizards, but it sticks out pretty far. And you know, a lot of these shots, you get that. However, there are also shots where his head is really round and it looks just more like a lizard head. Like I said, his body can change from shot to shot, so, you know, it's really up to you, like, how much this bothers you or how much you don't care, right? Sometimes they give Mondo Gecko kind of like goofy teeth too, but then in other shots he'll have just nice straight teeth. You know, this action figure, of course, has the nicer, straighter teeth. And you know, I gotta, you know, for a good guy, like, I don't know, there's just something about his eyes that make him look devious. I think probably because he's got like snake eyes, plus like they're bloodshot, like they're blood red. Like, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. It would have been funny in the episode if like he has these kind of eyes throughout the whole episode when he's evil, but then at the end when he like turns good, maybe he like pops out his contacts and he's got like normal eyes underneath. I don't know how much I like the neck being like completely dark green like this too. You know, like it looks fine on the back of the head, how they do their cell shaded look with these action figures. Even the hat looks pretty good too. But just having the neck that solid green, there's just something about it that just seems a little, I don't know if it's like strange or I don't know how to describe it. It just kind of looks a little off. I think that maybe they could have just left a little like line or something like that, or maybe a little, you know, circle of the brighter green color underneath his neck just to break it up a little bit. I'm pretty sure that Mondo is supposed to have more of like a skinny build. Like he's not supposed to be like big and strong or anything like that. And this toy definitely portrays that. He's definitely more of like a, I don't know, he's got more of like a teenager body or something like that. You know, he's not like a bodybuilder or anything. But in some of those shots in that episode, he looks a little bulky. Like he looks a little wider and maybe a little stronger than he should look. Pretty much everything lines up perfectly with this guy. Like you got his torn and tattered yellow shirt. That looks pretty awesome. You have that skateboard and lightning logo on his chest. That's pretty cool. You have his blue underbelly. You have his purple ripped shorts. You know, that looks cool. Down here on his knee pads, you have one knee pad that is red and has a spike. And the other knee pad has a skull. That's pretty awesome. That's like, you know, that goes back to the toy where they couldn't have the same thing on both sides. If you look at him from the back, you'll see that he has two purple elbow pads, and they have a spike on them too. You know, that looks cool. And I just want to mention that, like, I love the colors on this guy. Like, all the, like, sort of neon or, like, bright colors. There's just something about him that really pops. You know, green and purple is always a good combination. Plus, yellow and purple is a great combination. And then just the tail, how you have, like, those orange spikes and the blue under tail. You know, it just looks pretty cool. Like, everything about this guy just is awesome. He really, really stands out a lot. I really like Mondo Gecko's shoes. You know, that black and red color combination just looks really awesome. Plus the white shoelaces really make them pop. And in the cartoon, of course, you have that same design. It all looks good. Most of the times the front of Mondo's shoes are red, but you know, there are some shots where they are completely white on the bottom. Mondo only wears one glove. I mean, who does he think he is? Michael Jackson. He's got this cool red glove. Now, you can kind of see the green underneath there, which is kind of a little bit of a, you know, a bummer. They should have painted that red or something like that. But there you go. He's got one red glove and nothing on the other side. Check out this goofy shot where they forgot to put the glove on the one hand. And they also gave him like those purple spikes that the original action figure has, but he doesn't really have in this episode. They do it in this shot too, but at least they give him the glove. As I said before, his tail has orange spikes and it has the blue underside. You can see that in the cartoon too. The episode Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter, might have more of a consistent model from shot to shot. I think proportionally it's probably closer to the toy as well. Alright, so in this shot you can see that Gecko is roughly the same size as the turtles. So, does this toy match? Pretty well, actually. It looks like the scale is pretty solid with this guy. And, this is something that's actually pretty solid from episode to episode. In pretty much every shot where the turtles are next to Mondo Gecko, they always appear to be around the same height. All except for this one shot at the end of Michelangelo meets Mondo Gecko, where Mondo Gecko turns into like a 5-year-old for some reason. Mondo Gecko's translation from toy to toon is actually pretty faithful. Pretty much everything is almost exact. There's just a few like minor details that have been changed. For one thing, he lost the scaly body. He doesn't got that anymore. He's nice and smooth now. He got rid of all of his acne. He lost the braces on his teeth, and he kind of doesn't have that like long tongue. Although in the cartoon, he does have this one shot where he grabs Mikey's grappling hook with his tongue. One of the things they possibly could have included here was like an extra Mondo Gecko head with like a long tongue or something. But other than that, like the head is pretty much the exact same. He's still got the same kind of hat. He's got his hair pulled back in a ponytail. He's got the little bit of hair going in front of his eyes. Yellow shirt. His skateboard and lightning logo here was originally a skull with a crossbones. One of the crossbones is a skateboard and the other one is an actual bone. So that's something that they changed. They didn't paint his underbelly blue. And I didn't think about it, but I thought that they would have painted this blue on the brand new Super 7 Ultimates. But if you look at all the pictures, he just has a green belly. Like that, I feel like that's something that they should have painted. And I didn't really think about it until I started making this video. So, unfortunately, if you want to tell Super 7 about it, it's probably way too late in their production for them to change that. All right. So if you look at his arms, he's got the elbow pads. They don't have the spikes on them. He does have like these purple spikes sticking out of the backs of his arms that I showed you is present in some of the shots in the show. I would assume incorrect shots because he doesn't have them in pretty much, the majority of the show. He lost those blue spots on his arms. He's still got the one red glove on the one side. He's got the tattered pants. Now here's something. There does exist a Mondo Gecko variant. I just don't have it, where he does have this knee pad painted red. Like I said. So that is correct in the cartoon. It's just mine is a little goofy. Also, that variant has like really like thick blue eyebrows. So one of these days I have to pick that up. The shoes pretty much look exactly the same. Like they have the same kind of design. They just don't have the white shoelaces painted. And, they look cool. And then like the last thing that's missing here is this little like either miniature skateboard or is that a roller skate there on the back of his tail. That's missing in the cartoon. He doesn't got the orange spikes, but that's just because they didn't want to paint all that. But yeah, like I said, this is really cool. It's really cool to have a pretty faithful character in the cartoon because lots of times they had to make lots of cuts to those characters and change them. Sort of like Mutagen Man was changed a bit. But Mondo here, he is pretty accurate. Alright, so if you were curious about reused parts, Mondo Gecko does have some reused parts, and he does also have some new parts, so he's a mix. Alright, so it looks like his head, his neck, his upper torso, and his lower torso are all new. But after that, some things start to get a little similar to the Punk Frog here. Like if you look at his sleeves here, the overall shape of it is very similar to the Punk Frog's. It just looks like they adjusted it by taking out some of these wrinkles here and also kind of making it have this like tattered look. But, like the way that it's cut here for the joint, it all looks similar. It all looks, like I said, like they built it off of this arm. Same thing with the bicep. I feel like the front of this looks very similar to Mondo's, but then they kind of just added the elbow pad. And the forearms here, I'm pretty sure, exactly the same thing. It's like the size and shape of it are pretty much the same, except they added different kind of wristbands. He didn't. Yeah. But yeah, it looks pretty much the same. If you look at his hands, he has pretty much the same hands as the Punk Frogs. I mean, you could just tell by the way the fingers, you know, are pointed and shaped and all that kind of stuff. All they did was add fingernails. Down here for the legs, same thing, much like the sleeves up top. It looks like they kind of took this shape and just adjusted it. You know, they lengthened it a little bit, add a little bit of a tattered look. But like, if you just look at like the joints and how everything is cut and everything, you can tell that there are some similarities there. I'm pretty sure that he uses the same exact thigh here on both figures. The knees are new, of course, because you got knee pads now. And the shins here, they look similar, but they also look adjusted. Like the bones are a little more pronounced on this shin, but I don't know. That could be somewhat newer. I don't know. There's, like I said, it's like they started with a beginning point and just kind of worked off of this instead of having to come up with everything from scratch. Of course, the feet are brand new, though. You know, if you were a kid like me and your favorite color was green, man, the Ninja Turtles was like the coolest thing around. Like almost every character is like green. Alright, so Mondo Gecko has some pretty good articulation. A lot of it is stuff we've seen before. A lot of it is also kind of the same articulation as like the Punk Frogs, because he has like the single jointed elbows and stuff like that. But let's all get into it, you know. First, he has a ball jointed neck here at the bottom of his neck, and he also has one at the base of his head. So you can try to, you know, get him to look forward, but it's going to be a little difficult. This is like one of the joint here below the head is like one of the joints where it's a little stiff. But yeah, I mean, you could probably try to work it out so that he's kind of slouched over and kind of sticking his head forward. I don't know. His mouth does open up pretty good. It seems like, you know, you obviously have this seam here, but it is pretty good. You know, it does seem pretty flush with the rest of the head. It's not like too distracting or anything like that. Here in the shoulders, you have a swivel. You can swivel his arm, or, you know, twist his arms all the way around. You have the hinge, so you can get that out a little bit. Underneath the sleeve here, you have a cut, so you can rotate the bicep there. You have single jointed elbows. They swivel around all the way, and you also have the a hinge there. You have a hinge in the wrists, and the wrists can also hinge back and forward. You know, this is like what I'm talking about, though. It's like I don't ever want to have to hinge this hand right here, because as soon as I start moving this hand, that little piece of red in there is going to flake off, and you're just going to see the neon green underneath. I already like cut the inside of his thumb a little bit here when I was trying to put the gun in his hand. So now you can see like a little hole of green inside of there. So that is, you know, that's a bummer. The upper torso here, you have a ball joint right in there. You can twist him at the like the belt area, you know. I like the, you know, as always with these brand newer Ninja Turtle toys, I really like NECA's hip joint situation here, where you have the ball joint in there, the hip wraps around that, and then you also have a cut here. So you have like a double twisted hip, you know, I don't know how you'd call that. So you can pretty much get this into, you know, any position you want. However, I did have this problem the other day when I was turning this leg. Somehow I accidentally got this piece in here that's around the ball to be completely turned so that it was actually like covered here, so I couldn't move his leg back and forth at all like this, and just like getting it back to this, like, you know, 0.0 here was just a little difficult. There is like a cut here underneath his shorts, so you can twist there. He's got double jointed knees, you know, they work well. Like the plastic articulation, you know, it wasn't too stiff this time, which is good, but like some parts are a little stiff. The ankles, you know, they click back and forth pretty well. There are ankle rockers here. It's a little difficult, though, to get them moving just because they're kind of stuck underneath the, you know, the shoe. But yeah, he'll get into some pretty good poses for you. This Mondo Gecko is like totally tubular, dude. Like, not only is he super close to like how he looked in the show, but he's also really similar to the design from the original toy line. So, he should be able to please all types of Mondo Gecko fans. All except the 2012 Mondo Gecko fans. He doesn't look anything like that. Now, on to Kerma. Kerma is an alien turtle humanoid, or turtleoid, from the planet Shell-Rila. He first appeared in the season 6 hour-long special, Planet of the Turtleoids. Although I think it's actually technically season 5. In that episode, the Turtleoids are experiencing a little problem, so Kermit travels to Earth in his giant skyscraper spaceship so he can find some help. He searches for the typical Earthlings, but, he can't figure out who to bring back, and Vernon just runs away like a sissy. So, he has no luck until he finds Groundchuck, Dirtbag, and the Turtles, who are all in the middle of a fight. He figures that one of these guys here, should be able to help him, so he wrangles them all up with this cool little device, and he takes them aboard his ship. I actually think that this would have been a cool accessory, if they would have included this in this set. It's kind of a bummer that they didn't. So, Kermit kidnaps everybody and heads to Shell-Rila. On the way there, Leo was able to free himself and the other turtles with this cool little dagger. I don't know how this thing is able to cut through this energy beam, but, whatever. So all the turtles go and they confront Kermit and ask him, "What the hell, man?" Kermit tells the turtles he just needs some typical Earthlings to return with him so they can discuss his little problem. When they all arrive at Shell-Rila, they're all in awe at what they see. Everything is made out of gold. Even the streets are paved in gold, and there's palm trees everywhere. It's like the perfect place for humanoid turtles to live. Donnie is especially intrigued because earlier in the episode, he discusses wanting to live in a world where a turtle could live free. Boy, Donnie, what a coinky-dink. You thought about it, and then 10 minutes later, there you are! So anyways, Kermit explains to the turtles that there's so much gold in Shell-Rila because the turtleoids need gold to survive. They use its reflected light to get energy, just like food. They get all of their gold by using a giant alchemy machine to turn lead into gold. Kermit also has a small version of this, which would definitely have been, really awesome if they would have included this too. This is a pretty cool looking thing. So on the way to the High Council, Groundchuck and Dirtbag break loose, and the turtles get a glimpse at the Turtleoids' little problem. This little tiny giant problem named Herman the Horrible. Herman is a giant two-headed dragon with like a purple fluffy body. He wants to steal the Turtleoids' gold machine. Kermit says that if he controls the gold, he can weaken the Turtleoids and rule them. For the time being, Herman is kept out of the city by a force dome, but time is running out. Kermit fears that Herman will eventually break into Shell-Rila and, hunt them all down or something. After his weapons fail to make a mark on the Force Dome, Herman leaves to plan for the next day's attack, and the turtles head into the High Council. This is where Kermit tells them his plan. No, he doesn't want them to fight Herman the Horrible. He wants them to tell the Turtleoids all about Earth, because he thinks the Turtleoids should move there to avoid a conflict. You see, the Turtleoids are a wimpy pacifist society, so they know nothing about aggression or fighting. The turtles, they don't think that this is such a good idea, and they try to talk Kermit and the other Turtleoids out of it, but they don't seem to be able to change anybody's minds. And that's when these two seriously jerky Turtleoids named Bork and Dwark arrive. They immediately dismiss the turtles, even go so far as to insult them by saying that they look like someone drew them. They escalate things, and eventually the turtles get thrown in jail. Boy, I bet these two Turtleoids with names and special colored robes definitely don't have anything to do with Herman the Horrible. Alright, so to speed things up, I gotta get moving here because I still got 2 more episodes to talk about. The turtles talk Kermit into helping them get out of prison. Leo, Mikey, and Raph travel to Herman's lair so that they can sabotage his weapons while he sleeps. Look how creepy he looks. Donatello stays with Kermit, where he builds a pulverizer ray to fight off Herman. Real quick, take a look at this gun here inside of Herman's lair. And then check out earlier in the episode. You see the same device or gun in the Technodrome. No, there's no Herman Shredder connection. It's just, the animation people trying to save some money by reusing objects in different scenes. Alright, so Herman teams up with Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. They attack Shell-Ralaw, but the Turtles are able to fight off Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, and Donnie uses the Pulverizer Ray to defeat Herman the Horrible. Surprise, surprise, Herman is revealed to be a robot. I love this shot where Leo actually gets to cut Herman's 2 heads off. I know he's a robot, but it's pretty graphic for, an early Ninja Turtle cartoon. Kill him! Kill him! Cut his head off! So, who could be behind this giant 2-headed dragon? Why, it's old men Bork and Dwork! And we would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you pesky turtles. Turns out, these guys wanted to steal the gold because they wanted to begin using gold as a means of possession. Alright, good going! Job accomplished! Time to fly home so the Ninja Turtles can fight Chrome Dome. What? Chrome Dome? Yep, Chrome Dome. You see, I didn't mention it before, but there's an ongoing subplot throughout this entire episode. While the Turtles are gone, having some fun or whatever on Shell-Ralaw, the Shredder and the Technodrome crew think that the 4 guys are dead. So Shredder decides to build Chrome Dome, who's supposed to be an indestructible, intelligent robot, and he has him instruct an army of foot soldiers to build a Technodrome Mark II on top of the Earth's surface. Now, I'll go into greater detail about this in my Chrome Dome review. I just didn't really want to talk about it too much here because I wanted to mostly focus on Kerma's, point of view or, his storyline. But when the guys return to Earth, they quickly destroy the Mark II and Chrome Dome. And all I want to say about this at the moment is that it's pretty underwhelming. Like, it really builds up throughout the whole episode. Altogether, this is a decent 2-part episode, and there's so much stuff crammed into it. Even Tattoo makes an appearance in the beginning of this episode, but it's revealed that he's a mutant hamster. Like, what the fudge is that about? I still recommend it. It's actually the last Ninja Turtle episode I remember seeing as a kid. I had moved on past Ninja Turtles eventually, probably watching like Batman and Fox Kids Saturday morning cartoons or something like that. But I remember a Saturday where I was flicking back and forth between the Turtles and some other forgotten show. Kermit's next appearance is in the season 6 episode, Return of the Turtleoid. In that episode, a space garbage can crashes on Earth by some anime-looking people. Okay. It opens up, and out comes Destructor X. Destructor X begins to blast its way into buildings while looking for a unknown target. Later on, the Turtles go inspect the rubble so they can find out who and what the robot is. And that's when Kerma reunites with the Turtles. He tells the Turtles that he needs them to help solve his small problem. Yeah, small problem. Destructor X is searching for him. You see, Destructor X tracks down the universe's most vicious criminals, and at some point he was programmed to go after a notorious space pirate named Nerma. But due to an electronic error, it came out Kerma. Boy, what bad luck. So the Turtles do what they can to protect Kerma, but it's not easy at all. Destructor X is fully loaded with guns and missiles everywhere. And if that wasn't enough, the gangster Big Louie learns of Kerma's miniature gold machine, and he steals it. Now that Kerma can't make any gold or reflect light on himself, he has no source of energy, so he becomes weak, almost to the point of death. As if Destructor X wasn't trying to kill him already. The Turtles do what they can to protect a weakened and, somewhat dying Kerma from Destructor X, but, it's tough because Destructor X only has like one sensitive spot. He is sensitive to bright lights. So, Mikey stops him with a flashlight. Yes, it's true. A flashlight. But, that doesn't last forever. Eventually, in the end, the Turtles track down where the gold machine is, and they use some marbles to take out some of Big Louie's men so they can steal the gold machine back. They use a sonic disintegrator, which was introduced in the very first scene in this episode, to turn Destructor X into metallic dust. Now, wouldn't it have been better if they reprogrammed him? Because, who's going to go out there and hunt space criminals now? Who knows how many countless aliens are dead because of the Ninja Turtles destroying Destructor X? I recommend this one too. There's a lot I left out in this episode because I didn't want to go over it too much. But you should definitely check this one out. I think it's pretty cool, and I really like Destructor X a lot. He has a very unique design. It's very he's very unmirrored. Like, you don't just have the same thing on both sides. You got some interesting things happening here. It would be really awesome if NECA made this guy in the future. Kerma's final appearance is in the Season 7 episode, Escape from the Planet of the Turtleoids. The Turtles are watching movies when they begin to think about Kerma and the Turtleoids. They worry about them. They're a bunch of pacifists. They don't know how to fight. They think that some other aliens are going to come and start pushing them around and steal their lunch money. So the Turtles go to Channel 6 and they try to contact them. But what do you know? Not long after the Turtles arrive at Channel 6, does Kerma show up in his skyscraper spaceship. He tells the Turtles that he needs their help, again, and the five set off for Shell-Ra-La. So what's the problem now? Well, Kerma built some golden robots in order to protect the Turtleoids, but they don't know how to be aggressive. Kerma can't program them for battle because he lacks any knowledge of any fighting or anything like that. He's a huge wuss, and that's all he knows how to be. He needs Donatello to reprogram them because Donatello is a tough dude. He's a badass. So as Donatello works on the robots, Groundchuck and Dirtbag show up with Captain Dread. Why are they at Shell-Ra-La? Well, they're trying to steal the Turtleoids' gold machine, just like in the first episode. The Turtles try to do their best to fight them off, but they manage to kidnap Kerma. And Groundchuck and Dirtbag, those guys are rotten scoundrels. They kind of torture Kerma, and something in him changes. Kerma manages to escape, and he returns to Shell-Ra-La so that he can ask the Turtles to teach him how to defend himself. I love this scene of Kerma trying to learn how to fight. I think it's pretty funny, I just love how Leo just trips him. It makes me laugh every time. As Donatello continues to work on the golden robots, Captain Dread, Groundchuck, and Dirtbag return to Shell-Ra-La, only this time they've got reinforcements, so they can hopefully steal that much sought-after gold machine. It's a good thing that Donatello finally reprogrammed that golden turtle army, right? No. Gold is weak, so the robots get demolished, The villains have no problem tearing through these guys. Kerma watches in absolute horror. After watching the destruction of his robots, he finally snaps, and he starts beating the snot out of everybody. Look at him go! Ninja kick the damn alien. He's pulling off some pretty good moves. He might even be a better fighter than the Turtles. He beats all these guys by himself. So Raph stops Groundchuck. Donnie and Mikey stop Dirtbag. Donnie reprograms Captain Dread to tear himself apart. And, now that Kermit knows how to defend himself, the Turtles just go home, right? In peace, right? Wrong. Just like in Planet of the Turtleoids, there's a subplot on Earth where Krang and Shredder are carrying out an evil scheme, which is easily foiled by the Turtles in 1 minute. I know this is a sequel and all, but a lot of this episode is just like a regurgitation of the first Planet of the Turtleoids episode. The Ninja Turtles think of a planet with turtles, and bam, they go right there. In both episodes, the Technodrome crew think the Turtles are dead. That's right. So they carry out their evil scheme on Earth, which is stopped with little to no resistance. In the first episode, they think the Turtles are dead because after Bebop and Rocksteady capture April, they try to contact the Turtles on the Turtlecom and they get no answer. So, of course, the Turtles are dead. That's the only reason why they would answer. In this episode, there's this huge buildup for these cool hunter drones. Krang really builds them up, talking about how they study the Ninja Turtles. They know how to destroy them. They head towards Channel 6, but once they get to Channel 6, the Turtles have just left for Shell-Ra-La. Since the drones can't find the Ninja Turtles, they just assume that the Ninja Turtles are dead. And then after that, the Ninja Turtles don't even fight these things at the end of the episode. They just disappear. What a letdown. Groundchuck and Dirtbag team up with some alien threat so that they can steal the gold machine, Captain Dread, really looks like a 90s cyborg. I mean, look at him. He's totally 90s. What's interesting about him is he actually uses the gun hands that Krang has in Krankenstein Lives, which was included with the Krang Android body toy. So that's pretty neat and how they, you know, they reused that because they were too cheap to come up with new weapons. He's got he's got like this pretty neat two-handed energy sword, which is kind of cool. I like that. He has tentacles that come out of his back, so you can't, make a back attack on him. And he also has these guns that can stick out of his chest. Is it cold in here? Oh yeah. Also, in both episodes, Dirtbag is beaten when he tries to escape in the sewers. The turtles follow him and use pipes to subdue him. In the first one, he gets like stuck in a pipe. Raphael captures him. And in the second one, he gets stuck in a pipe and Donatello like closes it and then, sets the water so the water shoots him up to the surface. It's like almost the exact same thing. So, if you watch this episode, expect to feel some deja vu if you've seen Planet of the Turtleoids. But, this is somewhat still a cool episode. I think that there's some interesting things going on here. Finally, let's talk about Kerma, the action figure. I love this guy. This guy is great, I think he's just a cool little representation of that character from the cartoon. And, he looks really good. He has got a lot of life in his face. Like, look at him. He seems so, like, happy-go-lucky or something. I don't think it's the, the perfect representation of the cartoon. I think there's something a little different about how his face is proportionately, and I think he's got more of like a longer beak, and I don't know, most of the times he smiles, but he just looks a little reserved or something. This guy just looks like very happy-go-lucky, like he looks like he's got a lot of charisma. Like if he kidnapped you and took you to fight some giant monster on his planet, you'd be like, yeah, sure, what's up, dude? This sounds like a good old time. Let's go have some fun and then have some pizza afterwards. But he also may look a little too dopey or something. I don't know. There's something about him. He doesn't look like he has the wisdom of Kerma from the cartoon, but he just looks happy, Like I said, hopefully he's not a little too dopey. Kerma, you gotta learn to stand up for yourself and fight those guys on your own. Oh, no. Nope. Don't wanna. Nope. That, like, sunken in area around his eyes just looks really cool. It really makes a cool looking effect. And the paint is really nice, too, around his eyes. Like, that's a very small spot there where they were able to paint the white and get that little black dot there, on, in the middle, so it actually looks like he's looking at people. Just ignore this little wavy line here by his mouth. Other than that, everything looks fantastic. There are some spots in the cartoon where maybe if you turn his head like this and you look at this shot from the cartoon, like this shot of him looks pretty close to this action figure. Kerma wears a purple robe with a light blue belt, and then you have like these dark purple details, like here, this little piece between this flap, and just like the tips of this belt here. There's not much, detail to this outfit, so it'd be really hard for them to mess it up. So, they did a great job here of copying these very, very small details. If you turn Kerma around, you can see that he has a nice little hood back here. I don't know, this is just a very nice looking guy. I feel like the way that his robe is shaped and everything just looks really nice. It looks like it's really just kind of draped off of his little tiny turtle body in there. Kerma has 3 fingers and a thumb, and here's the toy. Unfortunately, if they included the mini gold machine or that like electric lasso device, he wouldn't be able to hold it. He's got no way of being able to grip anything. But the hands still look pretty cool. And, finally, on the bottom here, he's got 3 toes. And there you go. He's got peg holes on the bottoms of his feet. But, you're really not going to need them because this guy has no trouble standing at all. He's got no leg articulation, so it's not like he's going to be tilted or anything. But I guess it's cool that they included it. So how does Kerma scale with the Ninja Turtles? Well, in the Planet of the Turtleoids, it looks like Kerma is just below the turtle's belt. And every now and then he's drawn a little taller than that. In Escape from the Planet of the Turtleoids, he's almost always drawn a little above the Ninja Turtles' belts. So how does this guy scale with the action figures? Well, it looks like he stands right about, the top line of the belt, and that's perfect. I think he's a perfectly good size. He's not too small. Like, you don't want him to be too small or anything like that. I think he's a really good size next to these guys. Kermit kind of looks like that kid that used to get picked on in recess, and now he's brought his older brothers to beat the snot out of his bully. Hey, Jimmy, my older brothers are going to kick your ass. Kermit is just a tiny, tiny little guy. And unfortunately, his articulation is a little limited, so you really can't get him to tilt his head upward enough that he's actually looking at the Ninja Turtles. Hey, Kermit, my eyes are up here, dude. Kermit's articulation is very limited. He doesn't have much at all. He's got a ball-jointed head, so you can rotate that around, but you really can't look up too high, unfortunately. He's got rotation in his shoulders and hinges. So you got a little bit there. You don't have anything in the elbow here. The hands swivel around in a circle. So you got something there. And unfortunately, you can't rotate his legs front and back. They're kind of stuck in this straight down pose. You can swivel them where they connect to the body. But that's it. So, I mean, you won't have any trouble standing him because he's always stuck standing. But unfortunately, you can't get him to look like he's running. Or you can't make it look like Leonardo's tripping him or anything like that if you want. And unfortunately, you are not going to get him into any kind of ninja poses where he can fight off, his enemies. It would have been cool, being able to pose him kicking Dirtbag or Ground Chuck right in the face. But, nope, you're not going to be able to do it. I think it's pretty funny how, ineffectual Kermit is in the cartoons. Up until that last episode, whenever he learns how to stand up for himself. I think one of the funniest scenes is in the Return of the Turtleoids, whenever Destructor X is attacking his ship, and Raph just picks him up, and he, his body just goes limp, and just his arms kind of flail around a little bit, so Raph can just pick him up and carry him around, kind of like a little rag doll. Can you get Raph to hold Kerma? Well, it's not easy. You can try. It doesn't look the best. I love the look of just sheer annoyance on Raph's face. That's pretty hilarious. Sometimes in the show he wears a trench coat disguise, just like the guys. This might be an interesting release in the future. If NECA ever wanted to dip in the well again. Here's a pretty funny looking shot of Kerma in Return to the Turtleoid. Here you can see that he has 3 segments, in the front part of his shell. And this one is, protruding past the robe. What's up with that? Man, this Kerma action figure is actually pretty cool. I wasn't, the most excited to get Kerma. I really like Mondo Gecko a lot. And Kerma to me is just kind of an okay character. But now after getting this little guy, I'm glad I got him. And it'll be pretty neat once we get Ground Chuck and Dirtbag to come up with little different scenarios and stuff like that on our shelves. So I say this is pretty cool. And now, on to accessories. Up first you have Mondo as a regular gecko. This guy is really tiny, but NECA did a phenomenal job bringing this guy to life. A lot of his details are very small, but they were able to get a lot of the paint and, just expressions of his face, pretty precise. He looks good. It doesn't look wonky or anything like that. Everything is clean and sharp. I like how you can see his mouth really well, and he's got nostrils and everything, and even his eyebrows and stuff. They just look pretty cool. And I also like how on the bottom here, his underbelly is painted a different color. It's they made this tiny little guy, but they didn't cheap out on him at all. So, of course, this normal version of Mondo Gecko showed up in Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko. The first time you see him, he seems a little stiff or maybe a little too realistic. But then later on, there's another scene where he looks a little more cartoony and expressive and probably fits in a little closer with this little action figure guy. Even Michelangelo here looks a lot different than he does in that earlier shot. Up next, you have some loot. And you know what the good thing about loot is, or money bags or anything like that, is that any villain can use them. They can all hold them because they're all, robbing banks and stealing stuff. This is pretty cool. I'm amazed at how well this as I turn this, it stays up straight. You would think it'd be falling and flopping all over the place, but it actually has a pretty nice, somewhat flat bottom so that it could actually sit up. See, the bottom has like a little circle, but that doesn't really have anything to do with it standing. That's just like a seam. Mondo can hold the loot, so that's great. You know, it's always a bummer when your guy can't hold his accessories. Fortunately, Mondo can hold this accessory. So, in the episode, Michelangelo meets Mondo Gecko. Mondo steals this from a bank. And then at the end of the episode, Mondo gives this to April so she can return it. I don't know, bud. I don't think the bank and the police give bank robbers that option. So here's the blue laser. And, you know, this is a pretty cool gun. We've seen this released in this series before. Most of the times with foot soldiers, like the slashed foot soldier, bashed foot soldier, and the ultimate foot soldier. You know, I talked about this in greater detail in my 2017 to 2020 all Fred Wolf NECA accessories explained. I can't remember the exact title, but it was pretty close to that. Essentially, this weapon is usually used by humans who are in league with the Shredder. So, in this episode, both Mr. X and Mondo Gecko use this gun, but they don't have any connection whatsoever to the Shredder. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? You know, how did Mr. X know that the ooze was going to be in the sewers? Did Shredder tip him off, and Mr. X decided to place his pet gecko in it? Is the Shredder pulling the strings all along? Who knows? It's, you know, Mr. X kind of disappears after this, and pretty much so does Mondo. Unfortunately, this gun might be a little too big for Mondo. You know, maybe they should have made a smaller one for him because you can't really get him to point it straight. This part of the gun here just keeps on pushing into him, and you can't turn it anymore, unfortunately. So, you know, unfortunately, you also won't be able to get him to hold this gun with two hands. You know, in the episode, he uses both hands lots of times to hold it. That is just not going to happen here. It also kind of makes you wish that he had like kind of like a bigger gripping hand too, just because this hand is like a little stiff. Up next, you have the explosive device that Mr. X uses to hold the city for ransom. This is just really cool looking. I really like all these like different little prongs on the sides and on the back here, and just the wires going across the top. It looks like a bunch of sticks of dynamites. Plus you have the countdown clock there. I like this a lot. I think it's pretty cool. It kind of makes you wonder though, like how is this device going to explode an entire city or whatever it was supposed to do? Is it nuclear? Yeah. So if you look at it in the cartoon, it looks very much like this, like almost verbatim. You know, this looks just like that. You know, this is just pretty neat looking. If you look at the bottom though, there's nothing under there, but that's fine because most of the times you're just going to have it sitting down somewhere. So in the episode, Donnie disarms this bomb by cutting the purple wire. You might be wondering, why the purple wire? Well, because that's the color of bandana he wears. Simple as that. It's a good thing he doesn't wear blue. Here's the compliance cuff. Now, in the episode Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter, all the mutants who get captured by Dirk Savage get one of these placed on their wrist. This allows the eccentric millionaire A.J. Howard control all of them. The details on this are just very nice. You know, it looks kind of like something that like Krang would use, not necessarily like some kind of millionaire or eccentric person who doesn't have anything to do with super technology like the Technodrome or whatever, but it's okay. You know, all the details are here. Because of Mondo's red glove, you are not going to get this compliance cuff on the right hand. So you are going to have to put it on his left hand. Or left arm that completely covers up his whole arm. This thing does look cool on his arm. You know, it looks pretty good. If you were curious, you can get this on like the Ninja Turtles arms, so that's good because the Ninja Turtles do wear this in that episode, at least Mikey and Leo. And it also looks like you can put these on the Punk Frogs. So that's pretty cool, you know. You can set up different scenes from that episode on your shelf if you want to. You know, hopefully they'll release AJ Howard down in the future with changeable heads, like a slug head and a human head. And hopefully they include a couple more compliance cuffs, because one is just not going to do it. It'll be interesting to see if this thing will fit on NECA's Fred Wolf Toka. Only one more to go, and then I'm finally finished. All I gotta do is talk about Mondo's hands, and then after that, it's smooth sailing. So here it is, the Turbocharged Sewer Skateboard. Man, what an awesome board. Didn't you wish you had one of these when you were a kid? A skateboard with a motorized engine on the back? Kids these days just don't know how well they have it. With their electric scooters and their hoverboards. I remember dreaming about that stuff. Yeah, this is pretty awesome, you know. Like, what kid didn't want something like this on the back of their skateboard? Just blasting them forward. You know, you could ride on the... You could, like, race cars and stuff like that. You'd almost get yourself killed, but, you know, you'd have fun in the process. In the episode Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko, the turbocharged sewer skateboard is a little on the small side. It's probably closer to the size of a regular skateboard. It doesn't really get big, like super big, until Dirk Savage Mutant Hunter. In that episode, it's like super long. I mean, check that out. And check out that awesome motor. I mean, look at it. And NECA did a fine job of translating this thing to the toy. Like, even this like little circle here, this little dial has like ridges on the sides of it to make it look like you could turn it. You have all these little, you know, lines going up and down. It looks pretty cool. Here you can see the back, and here you can see the NECA toy. And again, the NECA toy has pretty much copied all these things verbatim. You know, the exhaust pipes look fine. You have these two things on the top here. You know, it's all cool. It's all good. Here you can see the side of the board. And if you look at this toy here, you know, it just looks... It looks awesome. You know, maybe the size of the skateboard is somewhere in between, you know, the first appearance and the second appearance. It's in the middle. You know, it's not probably as long as it appears there, and it's definitely not as short as it appears in the first one. It's a nice medium. It's a nice spot, and, you know, it works really well with Mondo. There is a peg on the side of the skateboard. I think it's good that they put it over there so you didn't have that right in the middle of the fire. And you have a peg hole in the bottom of Mondo's foot here. But I find it to be like a little too tight. Like, it's kind of hard to get it in there. So I just haven't been, you know, forcing it. I've mostly just been balancing him on the board without it. Come on, don't make me look stupid. See that? Look at that. He's floating all over the place. So here you can see the cartoon version of the TCSS. I got tired of saying the whole thing. And the original one from 1990. You know, they did a decent job of copying some of these details. But, you know, they also kind of, you know, simplified everything, which is perfectly fine. You know, they didn't want to animate this whole thing the way it looks here. But, you know, the original 1990 toy, it's a little more expressive, especially like the way these exhausts are shaped. There's just a little more pizzazz or something, you know, something just a little nicer. You know, this still looks really good. It's just a little more uniform. I guess that's how you would say it, you know. It's fine. It works. But this one is just like a little more zany. Same thing with the motor, but like the colors on this look great. And they looked really great in the cartoon too. You know, the top of the skateboard here, they lost the skull and the crossbones, and they really simplified that fire look. But, you know, like even like the color of the skateboard is pretty similar. And then you have the red wheels. On the bottom here, you know, there is nothing on the bottom of the NECA skateboard, and there are tons of details on this one from 1990. You know, but that's not really on NECA. I don't think you ever really see the bottom of the skateboard in the cartoon from when I was looking. So, you know, that's fine. You know, you don't need everything to be like super detailed. It's based on a cartoon. It's not based on the toy line. Speaking of skateboards based on the toy line, all right, just really quick here. You know, Super 7 is releasing their Ultimates Mondo Gecko by the end of the year. Probably not. But like, if you look at their skateboard, you know, unfortunately they didn't paint the motor. Like, I think one of the best things about the NECA skateboard is just the painted motor and just like the overall aesthetic of it. It all looks fine. But unfortunately with Super 7, they're cutting back a little bit here on the paint apps. And yeah, it's just like I don't know. I think sometimes when I think of some of these accessories, I think the toys look amazing, but I think some of the Super 7 accessories are just lacking a little bit of something. Mondo has 2 sets of hands. First, he has the gripping hands. These hold every single accessory in the set, so that is great. A+. Next, he has these flat hands, so it looks like he's balancing when he's skateboarding. Unfortunately, I kind of wish that you would have gotten a set of these, plus maybe a more relaxed open palm hand. Something that you could use to get him to do some expressions, because you can't really use these to make him do expressions. It's not I don't know. They look too intentional. The intention is that he's trying to balance himself. So even though they're cool, it might have been cooler if he would have gotten 3 sets of hands. But, that's just my minor nitpicking. So are there any missing accessories in this set? Other than an extra set of hands, like I said, or maybe the Mondo Gecko extra head with a tongue, those would have been perfect. Pretty much everything with Mondo is great. There's no real item that I can think of that should be included with Mondo. Now with Kerma, you could have included that device that ties people up with the energy beam. You could have included the mini gold machine. That shows up in the 2 of the Turtleoid episodes, and you possibly could have had Kerma in a 2-pack with a giant gold turtle robot. That might have been a better pairing than having him with Mondo Gecko, but it's fine. I don't care. And if you did that, you could have also included this remote control. Here you can see how Mondo and Kerma scale with all the other different Fred Wolf body types. This shot is just getting more and more impossible to take because I can't show every single body type in one shot. There's just too many now. And, that's just how awesome this series is, There's so many different characters, different types of bodies, your shelves should be getting super dynamic and super awesome. Here they are next to a few NECA Mirage Ninja Turtle toys. Here's Mondo and Kerma next to some of the Super 7 Ultimates. And man, these guys are just tiny compared to these gigantic monsters. Here's some of the brand new Playmates. Well, not really brand new, but just released old Playmates toys. Mondo looks pretty decent next to that Bebop. But that Michelangelo is just way too big. He doesn't really fit in with I don't think that Michelangelo really fits in style-wise with that Bebop. So, Bebop okay, Mike and the other turtles, no way. And that's it. I can't believe it, but I'm finally finished. Man, this review took me forever to make. It's been 2 weeks on and off. I've been trying to move quicker, but because of work and some housework, I'm actually fixing up some rooms in my attic so that I can move my collection up there and get more space to make my reviews. I've just been kind of working on these reviews when I can, and mostly working on that other stuff. So hopefully once that other stuff is finished, like my attic, I'll have more times to do reviews. This took forever. Not to mention, it really seemed like I had to do a lot more screenshot editing with this one. This was kind of 5 episode reviews on top of the toys. So, it just took a while. So, I really like both of these guys, and I think this set was most excellent. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.